is an exclusive presentation of the Yes Network.
No. If I could just make a couple records, get a little change jingling around my pocket, you know. Get a nice stereo. That's all I really wanted.
GMC Truck presents Center Stage. Here's your host, Michael Kay.
Thank you, everybody, and welcome to Center Stage. Today's guest came from a small Indiana town to become one of the essential voices of America's vast midsection. He attained stardom in the early 1980s with hits like Pink Houses and Jack and Diane. He achieved critical acclaim in 1985 with the release of his Scarecrow album. In a career that has spanned over 30 years, he's recorded 17 albums of original music that have sold over 25 million copies. In 2003, he was presented the Woody Guthrie Award as the artist who embodies the ideals of the legendary singer-songwriter who was a musical voice of the common man in the 1940s and the 1950s. He recently performed at the opening of the Center for the Intrepid, a privately funded state-of-the-art rehabilitation center that treats war veterans. Freedom's Road is his latest record and arguably the finest of his career. It features the hit song, Our Country. And yet, despite his many successes, as he once said in his hit song, Small Town, he's still hayseed enough to say, look who's in the big town. Please welcome John Mellencamp. That must feel good, huh?
What?
Now, Freedom's Road, all right?
Yeah.
It debuted at #5.
Yeah.
I mean, that must be very gratifying for you.
Well, it is, but you know, they've changed the charts, and music used to really have a magic about it, the way the charts worked. It used to be when you put a record out, your record would come, you would sell maybe, you know, I sold maybe 70, 80,000 the first week, and it'd come in at like 30, and then the next week you might sell, you know, 40,000, but you're always working your way up the charts.
Right.
So what happened is that by the time your record got in the top 10, you had sold millions of records. Now it doesn't work that way. SoundScan just measures the amount of records sold that week. So it's like the movies. You know, the record companies, everybody shoots for that first week.
You had not done an album, John, in 5 years.
Right.
And you wanted to reconnect with people, and it seems like it's a success because everyone that you talk to loves this album. How gratifying is that for you?
Well, it is. I wanted to make a record that kind of said, look, you know, we can be together and be a nation again and be friends and have opposing point of views and be more civil to each other. And so, you know, that's where Freedom's Road came from. But make no mistake about it, it's a protest record of sorts.
Now, one of the reasons for the early knowledge of the album is obviously that you licensed Our Country to Chevrolet. Right. And that obviously caused a big uproar. Well, is he selling out? Tell us why you licensed it to Chevrolet.
Well, the landscape of the music business is quite different for me than it was, you know, before in my career. I still don't think people should sell their songs if they don't have to, but the music business has totally changed. The landscape's different, and I felt like this is something that if I wanted to get my songs out, I had to do. And
did you think that you weren't going to get radio airplay?
oh, I don't think. I knew I wasn't.
Uh-huh.
You know, and any radio airplay that a guy 55 years old gets, you know, is just a blessing.
Did you ever think, though, that that song would be played as I mean, you watched the World Series, it must have been played at least 30 times a game. Did you even go, wow, that's a lot of Our Country?
No, I had no idea. I kind of asked the guys. I said, so if I do this, how much you guys gonna play this thing? They said, you'll get more play on this than any #1 record you've ever had. And I went, yeah, right.
They didn't lie.
No, see? The direct opposite of a record company. Who's always lying.
Now, you didn't want it to be a flag-waving song, and you retained creative control over the commercial, right?
I worked with them. They kind of said, okay, if we're going to do this, you know, what do you want in the commercial? And I said, well, make a John Mellencamp video. If I was to do a video of this song, I would show the good of America and the bad of America. So, you know, people gave me crap about it. It was kind of like, man, if you cut the truck off at the end, it's a John Mellencamp video. What are you talking about?
Can we make a little video now and have you play Our Country for us?
Sure. Well, I can stand beside ideas I think are right, and I can stand beside the idea to stand and fight. I do believe there's a dream for everyone. This is our country, and there's room enough here for science to live, and there's room enough here for religion to forgive, and try to understand all the people of this land. This is our country. From the East Coast to the West Coast, down the Dixie Highway, back home. This is our country. They never played this verse on the commercial. Poverty could be just another ugly thing. Bigotry would be seen only as obscene. And the ones that run this land help the poor and common man. This is our country. From the East Coast to the West Coast, down the Dixie Highway, back home. This is our country. Something like that.
Nice. This CD, Freedom's Road, a lot of people say that it's a Woody Guthrie rock album.
I wish.
Now, you love Woody Guthrie, right?
I wish it was that good.
He was
Yeah,
a big influence on you.
Yeah, I grew up with Woody Guthrie in my house. My dad's only 20 years older than me, and you know, he was kind of a young guy when I was born, and so he had Woody Guthrie records and Odetta records and bongo parties. You know, I guess. Go, man. You know, and I would go to sleep at night at 9 years old, listening to guys. You know, in the living room.
Through that, yeah.
Well, it was all right. So I thought it was great. But, you know, it was my dad's music, so, you know, eventually my older brother said he wanted to play guitar, and he went out and saved his money and bought a nylon string guitar. And then he found out he didn't want to play it. So it kind of sat around the house, so I just started playing it and discovered, you know, Bob Dylan, and discovered Chubby Checker, and, you know, a lot of different music.
Now, for those that don't know, Woody Guthrie was kind of the voice of the common man back when he would play music. And I'm wondering if you think he would be proud that you took steps to ensure that Our Country did not feel like a flag-waving song, because they did that to This Land Is Your Land, Woody Guthrie's song.
I wanted to put Woody in the video,
Uh-huh.
and I don't know what happened with that. At the end of the video, I wanted Woody to be walking away, because, quite honestly, I stole the song from him, you know. So, I mean, but that's okay. That's what guys do. I mean, we all, you know. I mean, the truth of the matter is nobody really makes anything up. We just kind of, I like that. I'll have that. I'll take that, you know. Oh, I like that, you know. So,
Like Dinner at the Sizzler.
absolutely. I've always compared my songwriting to like Dinner at the Sizzler.
When we come back, John grew up in a small town of Seymour, Indiana. We'll find out about that next on Center Stage.
I just love what he has to say about people, what he has to say about humanity. I like what he believes in.
GM.
Always in the moment, always, you know. I was the world's greatest recreator. You know, I could fill up days on end with just recreation.
Welcome back to Center Stage, everybody. We're talking with John Mellencamp. Now, John, you grew up in a small town, Seymour, Indiana.
Yep.
Growing up, John, did you play any sports?
Yeah, I was I ran track, and I held the 100-yard dash record. But my sophomore year in high school, I thought I was indispensable from all sports.
Right.
Because I was the fastest guy in my class, and I was a running back. So I went to football practice with cigarettes in my back pocket, you know? And there was a coach there who didn't like me anyway, because I was always smart aleck too. So I was getting dressed after football. It was summer practice, and I was getting dressed after football practice. And damn if those cigarettes just didn't fall out right in front of the, right in the locker room. I kind of picked them up real quick, and I thought, oh, what, he saw me? Well, he saw. And he took me outside, and this is like in the 60s, and he grabbed me by the scruff of my shirt and went, wow, slapped me across the face and said, don't you ever step foot in the stadium again.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was it, man.
IU basketball obviously is huge, and I know that you're a big contributor to Indiana University. Your thoughts on Bobby Knight? Were you upset when they fired him?
He's a fantastic coach, you know, old school for sure. Hey, look, you know what this is.
Right.
This is drill camp. You know, this is tough stuff.
Now, 14 ended up being a big number for you. You started smoking, you played, high school sports, and you also started to become a musician.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration to be a musician? Was it the bongos?
I don't know. I just always kind of thought that was my destiny. You know, I never really gave it. It was like, oh, who's going to be the singer? Well, Mellencamp. Okay. You know, it just never.
Right.
It never dawned on me. I mean, I was actually playing in bands when I was 12. There was never really any question what I was going to be doing.
Now, in Seymour, a kid dreams of becoming a rock musician. They're probably telling you no. Did people discourage you?
Yeah, I didn't really have a lot of support. But I have to say, I was in a band when I was 14 with a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-old guys. And, I think about, I have a son that's 12 now. And I just can't imagine letting him get in the car with a bunch of 20-year-olds and going off to a bar with girls and alcohol and paychecks.
Now, when you were 18, you got married. Your girlfriend was 23. She was pregnant. You ended up living in...
I still don't know how that happened.
You ended up living in her parents' house. How tough a go was that, John?
Living in her parents' house?
Yeah.
What are you talking about, man? It was the life of Riley.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't have a job, didn't want a job, wasn't looking for a job. She had a brother that was my age who didn't have a job, who wasn't looking for a job. We'd get up every morning and, when we felt like it, and we were living, man. Get up, have some eggs, talk, smoke. It was 1972, We'd get up, and then finally about noon, we'd decide, you want to go throw some Frisbee? Yeah, let's throw some Frisbee for a while, whap, and we'd throw Frisbee all afternoon. Then at night, we'd go stand uptown and look at girls. I mean, that's what we did. How awful was it? What are you talking about? I want to go back there. Of course, I had a child, but my idea of child rearing at the time was having water balloon fights with them. Pow. So.
Now, if with the kids that you have, and parenting is important. You can just see some of the stories I read about you. How much of a different parent were you then than you are with your younger kids now?
Having a kid that young was just kind of like, for me, like another person to hang around with.
Really?
Yeah. It was like, oh, come on, Michelle, let's go. I have one daughter who is 24 who dreams big, man. The oldest girl, the one that I threw water balloons with, she never dreamed outside the backyard. She didn't want to leave.
But that's kind of a little like you, John, because you still live in Indiana. You don't want to leave. You don't want to go someplace else.
No. I dreamed. I had big dreams.
You did dream?
Oh,
okay.
I dreamed big. I mean, how the hell did I get here?
Right.
If I didn't dream big. If you don't dream big, you don't have a 30-year career. No, maybe I'm not expressing it properly. She doesn't want to leave, ever.
Okay.
I live in Bloomington, but I leave Bloomington all the time, so I'm always... Bloomington's a great place to go back to.
Well, John starts that dream that we're talking about when he goes to New York, become a rock and roll star. We'll talk about that next on Center Stage.
This spring,
Because he didn't think Mellencamp would sell.
Oh, yeah, he had a whole big thing. It was like, no one wants to hear that German name. I remember him saying And I said, I told him no, and he said, well, you can go back to Indiana if you want to.
Wow. Welcome back to Center Stage, everybody. Our guest is John Mellencamp. John, at the age of 24, you moved to New York. You're looking for a record deal. Did you have a plan?
That's not exactly. At the age of 22, I started coming to New York.
Okay.
I never moved to New York. First time I came to New York, I drove here with a friend of mine. And we checked into the Holiday Inn downtown. Didn't come out of the room for 2 days. I'm not going out in that, you? Crazy people out there. We never seen anything like this before, you know. I went to Indianapolis a couple times to practice being in a big city, but wasn't nothing like this, you know. During the 70s, you know, New York was a different place. And I dropped off a couple demos. Really terrible, too. And finally, not the first time, but after about 3 or 4 trips, of, 18 months of coming back and forth to New York, on my last trip, I decided, okay, this is it. I'm going to go one more time, and then if it doesn't happen, then I'm going to have to get a job doing something. And I thought it was funny, too. I didn't really want a job, but... So anyway, that's where I met this Tony DeFries character who changed my name to Johnny Cougar. So
That was David Bowie's manager, too, right?
David Bowie, Lou Reed, a lot of people. He had a management company called Main Man.
Right.
And I had dropped off a tape there. And they didn't really like the tape. They just liked the way I looked. You know, this guy looks like he should be in a band. So I really got my first record deal because of the way I looked, not the way I sounded.
Now, the first album was Chestnut Street Incident. It was a cover of songs, right?
Well, it was a bunch of demos that I had made previously.
Okay.
And this guy thought, well, this is great. Because, you know, he was selling an image. The music didn't matter to him.
Now, the image that he sold, and it kind of was a surprise to you when the album came out, all of a sudden you were Johnny Cougar.
Yeah.
How much did that tick you off, and how much did it surprise you?
Well, you know, it didn't tick, I mean, I didn't like it, but it didn't tick me off as much as it still ticks some people off today. Because whenever they want to razz me,
They'll yell out Johnny Cougar.
they go right to that. You know?
Second album isn't released. A third is not released in America.
Well, you want to hear why the second album wasn't released?
What
It's kind
happened?
of a funny story. I go out to Los Angeles. I never met a record company president before.
Okay.
I thought it was going to be some kid. It was like an old guy. I walked in and I thought, oh, what's he know about anything? He's older than my dad. And I kind of, you know, being such a dope that I am, I gave him a cussing.
Did you really?
Because he started correcting, you know, making suggestions of what my record, you know, you need to change it. And I just kind of went, hey, you know, kiss my, you know what, and acted like a idiot. And I don't think I got out the door, and he called up and says, get this kid out of here. And that was it. I got dropped from MCA. The guy told the guy who signed me, that kid's never going to make it. And the guy that signed me said, yeah, he will someday. He says, and they made like $1,000 bet that if I'd ever play at the Forum, they'd both come and see me together. And about, you know, 1983, I'm playing at the Forum. He was so gracious. He came backstage.
Really?
Oh yeah, we laughed about it, and you know, it was a nice thing.
Really, your first hit, the third album is released in Australia, and on it is I Need a Lover. When you recorded that, did you say, this has something, this could sell?
No.
No way.
No, we were just discovering that you could change keys. Hey, that's pretty cool. If you modulate up, if you go up a little bit, you can play the same part, but it sounds different. That's true.
You follow up the success of I Need a Lover with the release of the album Nothing Matters and What If It Did. It had a couple of top 30 hits. At this point, John, are you starting to feel, I'm going to make it now?
No. I didn't even think about making it or not making it. I remember getting a check for $18,000. And I couldn't believe it. 18 grand? I went in to show my wife. I said, what's that say? Man, I was living big then. You know, so new stereo right off the bat. In
retrospect, John, were you signed to a record deal too soon?
No,
right?
I really had no business making records.
Really?
No. I was, I'm a walking hypocrite, you know.
How so?
I'm all over the joint all the time. I'm always changing my mind about stuff. And this is what I believe. And, you know, what it boils down to is I know that I don't know anything. And that's what I think deep down in all of us, we all know that we don't really know much.
Well, John might not have known anything or everything, but when we come back, we talk about how he hits the big time. Big time. Next on Center Stage.
His music to me is pretty inspirational. If you listen to the lyrics and read the stories behind the music, that's the reason why I came down.
He reviews and goes, Mellencamp's writing about the same stuff he always writes about. Yeah, because it hasn't solved itself, you know. That's the same reason we do Farm Aid every year, because it needs to be done.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Center Stage. John Mellencamp is here. In 1982, John, you release American Fool, and it's a huge success. Hurts So Good, Jack and Diane, Hand to Hold On To. I mean, those are like classics now. I mean, that was 25 years ago. Time flies. What did that mean to you to have that kind of album? I mean, again, mega. There was more than $18,000 checks at that time.
Well, actually, not really. Not really. When I made American Fool, we were young guys with black leather jackets and earrings in our ears and tattoos and motorcycles. And going in the studio was not a high priority. You know, we were down in Miami, and, you know, it was 1980, something like that. And we were there about 4 or 5 months and spent an ungodly amount of money and had 3 songs done. And the record company was getting upset with me. Matter of fact, they sent a guy down to give me a talking to.
How'd that work out?
Well, he stood up in front of us and gave us his speech, you know, and it was kind of like in Animal House. Like everybody's kind of, shut up. But when he was leaving, he said, hey, man, you know, you got to get serious about this because they're going to drop it to the label. What? Can they do that? Yeah, your contract's up with this record. And we had 3 songs, and they hated all 3 of them. One of them was Hurt So Good. One of them was Jack and Diane.
Really?
And one of them was Hand to Hold On To. That's all we had done.
In '85, they say you released your first serious record with Scarecrow, and you addressed the plight of the American farmer.
Yeah.
Did you feel, I'll make up a word, Woody Guthrie-ish, that you were really putting something out there that needed to be heard?
No, I really felt lucky.
How so?
Well, a guy that I used to write songs with, George Green, and I were just having table talk is how that song came about.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just talking about, you know, have you noticed how this town is, like, gone? Have you been to Cortland, Indiana lately? There's nothing there anymore. We were just talking about that. And between the 2 of us, we figured out that, you know, it's because the farming community is going out of business. And at the time, my sister lived on a hog farm, and they were kind of, you know, talking to me about farming.
The success of Scarecrow, I mean, you end up becoming one of the organizers of Farm Aid, and to this point, that's raised about $29 million. On the Scarecrow album, your grandmother sings some songs.
Yeah.
And she used to call you Buddy.
How'd you know that?
Did some research. And I heard a funny story that it was funny in retrospect. It probably wasn't funny when it happened, that when she was old and you'd get into bed with her, she would talk to God.
Yeah. How do
Could you
you know
tell?
this? Did you? Well, it was sad, you know. She was like, for me, my grandparents, you know, like I said, my parents and I were similar in age, and I butted head with my parents all the time.
Right.
Whenever I got in trouble, not even when I got in trouble, I went to Grandma's house every day.
Okay.
I'd go there and have dinner with her and Grandpa, and I had a really lovely rapport with both those people. And out of all her grandkids, like 30, 40 grandkids, I was always her favorite. So I had a fantastic relationship with her my whole life. And I mean, how lucky am I? She lived to be 100. But before she died, she got a little lupin. And not long ago, guys, about six months of loopiness. Other than that, she was just always the same. Buddy, you better stop that cussing. Better stop that smoking, buddy. Anyway, I'd go over to see her, and she'd go, buddy, come and get in bed with me, and let's pray. All right. So she'd start praying, and she'd get all excited, and she'd go, God, I'm ready to go. And me and Buddy are ready to see you. Whoa! No, Grandma. Let's redirect that prayer. I love you, but I'm not ready to go. And then she would always say, well, I'll wait for you up there. So I always, and this sounds funny, and I've never even told anybody this. I don't even worry about getting to heaven, because I know she's up there waiting for me. I don't even worry about it.
We'll be right back.
Painter, a lousy painter, but I do paintings, and I just have to laugh because people come in and look at my paintings and they start making these comments. I don't even know what they're talking about.
Thank you. Welcome back to Center Stage, and John Mellencamp is here. I'll tell you what, John, this is a lively crowd, and, you know, people don't know this. We tape this in the morning. There's a guy here that we should all be this up in the morning.
Yeah, I like it.
He's fired up.
He's fired up, man. That's the way guys are supposed to be. Fired up early in the morning, ready to go.
Absolutely. 89, you're on top of the world professionally. Personally, not so great. You go through a divorce. How difficult a time was that for you? Because at the time you admitted to being out of control.
Totally.
How so?
Well, you know, I mean, that's the way life is, isn't it? I mean, I wrote it in this song on Freedom's Road. If you're looking for the devil, he's out there. You know, and he's out there on Freedom's Road, and that's kind of what I was talking about. Not that specific thing, but that's the way life is. You know, there's all of this promise for all of us, you know, to be happy, to achieve stuff, but there's always that, you know, that devil out there waiting for you. So the devil had found me, sure.
Did you fight him off at all, or you embrace him for a while?
What are you talking about? We was in love, man.
Let's talk about the painting. A lot of people don't know that you happen to be a very, very good painter. When did this start? When did this love affair with painting start?
Well, my mom was a painter, you know, and there was always oil paint. You know, I grew up smelling oil paint. My mom was always kind of snobby, you know, always had her nose up in the air. I would bring girls over when I was in high school, and she'd go, do you paint? You know, a 14-year-old girl, 15-year-old girl, and the girl would go, no. She goes, John does.
Now, we're going to show a painting in the monitor, John. Just want to know what your inspiration was for this.
That painting is 16 foot long. It's just to get a scope of how big that is. So it's a huge painting. That Indian head there is humongous. It took me a month to do that painting. And what was the inspiration?
Yeah.
That's the United States. If you look at the West Coast, there's Hollywood, and there's a pretty girl at the top, but when you pull her panties down, it's not so great. And then you see the Statue of Liberty over there, cloaked in black. Lady Liberty maybe isn't exactly what we think she is. You see in the Midwest there's American Gothic, but they have a crack pipe in their pocket. And it says meth on their house.
You continue making records, and you make the album Dance Naked. But as you're doing the tour to support the album, you suffer a heart attack.
Well, they don't call it a heart attack anymore.
What do they call it?
They call it some kind of infraction. They don't. What I did. What is it called? There you go. Felt like a heart attack to me.
How scary is that?
I didn't know I had it. I'm playing a couple nights in Jones Beach, and I rent a house. One night I just got I went to bed, and I woke up, and I thought I was having a panic attack. I woke up, and I was sweating, and I didn't know where I was at. I was didn't know what the hell was going on. But then the next day, for the next 3 days, I couldn't get out of bed. And then finally, I thought I had the flu. Then I went out and did like 20 more shows, and I went home, and I didn't feel well. so I went to the doctor, and he's still one of my heart doctors. And he said, John, you've had a heart attack. Man, I gave him the cussing like you never heard. I called him everything you could think of. Oh, you stupid idiot. I just went off on him. He finally looked at me and said, John, you can cuss at me all you want. That still doesn't change the fact that a first-year medical student can tell you've had a heart attack. And that kind of settled me right down. And so then, you know, I didn't know anything about heart disease.
They tell you it's a heart attack, and you obviously are freaked out.
Oh, totally. I thought I was dead. You know, because I didn't know about heart disease. I thought, well, that's it. But it turned out to be great.
How so?
Because I didn't do anything. I was back to like 1971.
Frisbee and water balloons.
Frisbee and water balloons and eggs in the morning and, you know, laying on the couch at night. It was fantastic. I did it for 2 years.
But here's what I don't get. I mean, you had a heart attack at a young age, but you still smoke. I mean, aren't you afraid? Why don't you just quit smoking?
Of course I'm afraid.
Have you tried to quit smoking?
I don't want to quit smoking.
They're clapping for that.
Well, I mean, you know, people have, I do it really good.
Really?
I'm like a world-class smoker.
Is it that good that you're willing to risk?
What are you talking about?
I've never smoked, so I don't know.
Yeah, you know, what do you think people do it because it's terrible? Let's go stick a needle in our head? No, it's great. Smoking, people who smoke love to smoke. Oh, they wouldn't do it.
You performed a song at a benefit concert for Timothy White, which led to an album of cover songs. Now, on that album, you got tagged for the anti-war song To Washington, which was taken from Woody Guthrie's Baltimore to Washington. And the song was banned in radio play in 2000 because it questioned the 2000 election. So I'm just wondering, is that all worth it when you do stuff like that?
Oh, I didn't care that they banned it from radio. I knew they weren't going to play it anyway. You know, radio wasn't going to play that song. I didn't write that song to get on the radio. I wrote that song because that song has been written and rewritten hundreds of times. And I think the Carter family would have owned that song and have recorded it. And I really didn't think it was that big a deal.
Well, we've been talking about the CD so much. The title track is Freedom's Road. Would you play it for us?
I'll give it a try. I'm still learning this song. I'm navigating my way down Freedom's Road, trying to make my way back home. Got my foot to the floor, but shit, must need a bleeding. This car just don't wanna roll. See, that was Bush's big war cry. Let it roll, roll. Freedom's Road must be under construction. Sometimes you wonder what kind of freedom they're talking. If you're here looking for the devil, well, he's out there on Freedom's Road. Sometimes there's rape, sometimes there'll be murder, sometimes just darkness everywhere. No passing signs and barbed wire fences, misinformation, but no one cares. Freedom's Road, this is my favorite line. Freedom's Road can get narrow. Nobody wants to know you, but there's no pork in your barrel. If you're here looking for the devil, well, he's out there on Freedom's Road. Freedom's Road, Freedom's Road. If you want to take a ride, well, you got to pay the toll. Freedom's Road, Freedom's Road. If you're looking for the devil, well, he's out there on Freedom's Road. You can drop your bombs, and you can beat the people senseless. That won't get you anywhere. Hide your agendas behind public consensus and say that this world, well, it just ain't fair. My favorite line, too. Freedom's road is a promise to the people, and you won't fool us now with all this lying and cheating. If you're here wanting a crown in heaven, well, it's out there on Freedom's road. Freedom's road, Freedom's road. If you want to take a ride, man, you've got to pay the toll. Freedom's road, Freedom's road. If you're looking for the devil, well, he's out there on Freedom's road.
Welcome back, everybody. My guest is John Mellencamp. Now, John, this is when it really gets hard. This is called hit and run. So I'm going to tell you something. The first thing that comes to your mind, you hit me with it.
Okay.
All right, but before we do that, there's somebody that's been bugging me, calling me, wants to come out and say hello to you. So we have a special guest that just wants to come out and say hey. So why don't we bring out Paul O'Neill.
He's gonna answer your question about the foxhole. Who you want me in the foxhole? He's telling me because I'll bring a couple guys with me.
There you go. Now, let me ask you a question. I know you love to play the drums, and I know you love John's music. If you had to choose between being a great baseball player and being a rock star, what would you choose?
Well, I had a better career at a baseball.
Right.
I had one night as a rock star.
And what about it? What happened?
I played. I
Was it
played
good?
the encore.
Yeah.
It was great.
I got through the song. I know that's great, but I got through the song. That was fun.
Yeah?
I was more nervous for that than I think I was Game 7 in 2001.
Now, if you could be a rock star or be a big time, like a Paul O'Neill type star in sports, what would you choose?
Rock star.
Really? Paul, good to see you. See you soon. All right, be good. That's Paul O'Neill, everybody. Are you ready for hit and run?
Yeah, I'll try.
Now, John happens to be a very big James Dean fan.
Yeah,
Giant, East of Eden, or Rebel Without a Cause?
Giant.
Why?
That was a fantastic movie. Are you kidding me? George Stevens directed the thing, and Dean was at his best, and and Elizabeth Taylor looked great. Best line in the whole movie is, "She is the boss, and she knows it too, don't she?"
Bobby Knight or John Wooden?
Bobby.
What's the nicest thing a complete stranger ever did for you?
Well, I've always depended on the kindness of strangers.
Favorite moment in your career?
I don't know. I've had, like I said, I've had so many good things happen, you know. So many victorious moments, so many moments when I felt like I had accomplished something in my song. Some of my favorite musical moments happened in my kitchen, you know, or in my, in my art studio when I'm writing a song.
Favorite thing to do on a Sunday?
Nothing.
Nothing. Favorite musician?
I'd probably have to say Bob Dylan.
Okay. Favorite athlete?
Probably, I can't, man, I like so many guys, you know. I like so many guys that are alive today, and so many guys that I grew up with.
Favorite film?
Streetcar Named Desire.
Favorite actor?
Paul Newman or Marlon Brando.
Favorite actress?
Joanne Woodward.
Favorite late night snack?
Anything. Anything fattening.
Really? And the final thing, Paul just mentioned, if you were trapped in a foxhole, what person would you want there in there with you?
Elaine.
to the CD. When we come back, we'll wrap things up with John Mellencamp right here on Center Stage.
That really is the goal, is to have a song that kind of gets into people's lives and you know, might make them happy for a moment. They might sing it during the shower, or, you know, whatever.
Welcome back to Center Stage, and John Mellencamp is here. And John, we've been talking about your new CD, Freedom's Road, and I was thinking as I was listening to it and reading everything about it, there's a quote from Michael Jordan. He doesn't take any political stance. And when he's asked why, he said, you know, Republicans and Democrats both buy sneakers. Now, you're very liberal, and it comes across in your work.
Yeah.
Do you worry that you're alienating half of the buying public? Maybe conservatives are not going to buy your album, or do you care?
With all due respect to Michael Jordan, a person has to stand for something. And I hope to God it's just not sneakers. There's more important things. So,
the tone of the album, I always feel funny calling it an album. It's really a CD now. Tolerance and forgiveness.
Yeah.
Do you think there's enough of that in this country, or do you think that we're lacking it now?
oh, I think that we can do a much better job with that. You know, race problems are just, I wrote a song called Jim Crow on this record.
That's with Joan Baez.
Yeah, and it speaks about race in this country and how it's kind of, you know, kind of presents itself as a good thing now, you know. We need this segregation. You know, it's better for, it's not, you know, so I feel very, I've written about it for years, and I'll keep writing about it until it goes away.
Now, for those that don't know, and I'm sure everybody in the audience, Joan Baez, a famous protest singer in the 1960s, and she was also romantically linked with Bob Dylan. How did you get her to do the song?
Joan is really a sweet gal, you know, and really funny. And, you know, if there's anybody, I don't know, but I think if there's anybody that cusses more than me, it might be her. You know, so I just think that she's really upfront and honest. And when I wrote the song, I just thought, wow, this song would be so great if Joan Baez sang it instead of me. And then I just thought, well, I'll just send her the record and see if she will sing, you know. And she heard it, and she liked it, and she's fantastic. And I think she really makes the song something more than just me, you know, croaking through it.
You are really involved with Indiana University. I mean, you donate a lot of money, a lot of programs. Why so involved?
I live in Bloomington. I'm a supporter of I'm an athletic supporter.
And you have an honorary degree from IU, right?
Yeah, I don't know what that means. Does that make me smarter?
I think so.
I get more money for that?
No.
But anyway, I'm just involved in it, and you know, and it was all a natural thing. It wasn't like, it just kind of happened over time. You know, I would be there, hey John, would you mind, and this and that, and time went on, and now, you know, every time they hire a president, I get to know the guy, and so it's a nice thing. It's a small town. It's nice to be involved in your community.
How do you want to be remembered? I mean, when they write the John Mellencamp story, I mean, what do you want people to take away from what you've done?
I never have such thoughts.
Really? No legacy thoughts?
I'm dead. You know, what do I care? I mean, if there's a point you can finally quit caring, it'd be at that point, right?
I would think.
You're dead. Okay, you can stop worrying about this world now. It's over. So I don't care. And I'm sure, you know, they'll say lovely things about me.
Well, we have nothing but nice things to say. I mean, we really had a good time. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you. That's John Mellencamp. I'm Michael Kay, and this is Center Stage. So long, everybody.
It was just very nice to hear him talk about himself and growing up and the different stages of his career.
It was great. John Mellencamp was really funny, and it was so great to see him playing and singing right up there so close to us. It was terrific.
He is what he is. Doesn't hold anything back. It's only punches.
This has been GMC Truck presents Center Stage.